Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's a bit daunting to be here. If I had £1 for everybody who told me, you shouldn't be nervous, you work in television, the last hour, I probably could have a free night out tonight. I got a laugh, so I'm gaining your sympathy there. Right? I mean, we'll dive right into it. I'm Kevin Ruiz, and I was born into this community, our Gibraltar, our rock, our home, almost 40 years ago. Note the almost. I'm still clinging to my 30s. And I was very fortunate to be born into a very large family. A family had my parents, had my brother, my grandparents, my uncles, my aunties, and many cousins. Many, many cousins. And those of you who know my families know that I really do have many, many, many cousins. De verdad, exagerado. So, coming from being born into a very large family, very early on in my life, I was very fortunate to gain a sense of belonging very early on in my life. I belonged to my family, I belonged to a group, and they all belonged to me. And in that sense of belonging, I found safety, security, and the comfort to be who I am, to be myself. My childhood was awesome, it was great. I spent most of it just hanging around with my cousins, my many cousins. And I remember very, very fondly special times when we just used to splash around and collect crabs in the rocky pools in the now disappeared shoreline of Varelbeg Estate, and playing on the boats in the slipway, often ending up with greasy feet and going round to my granny, who kept a cupboard, a concoction of strong lemon-scented concoctions. She used to use that to wipe our feet clean. We belonged to her, she belonged to us, she looked after us, and she just accepted who we were. Boys would be boys. So that sense of belonging allowed me, despite coming from a large family and belonging to a large family, I was also allowed to be myself, to be an individual, and to be comfortable about it. Most of my cousins, with whom I hang out most during my childhood, they loved football. Now, anyone who knows me knows fútbol no hago yo. I know nothing about football. Soy malísimo. But because I belonged to a group, I belonged to the group that was my cousins, they tried to get me into it. They tried to teach me. They tried to, teach me to play football, but they soon realized there was no hope. So I was often left to my own devices, and I would sit comfortably atop a wall reading my book whilst they play football. And then at the end of the game, we'd all go together and do something together. But even there, when I wasn't part of the group, they made me feel like I was part of it. They tried to rope me in, they tried to teach me, and they just tried to make me feel part of the group. And that was important. I also remember going up the rock, and that was very usual on Sundays back in the 80s here in Gibraltar. And again, I suffered from vertigo. I have a huge fear of heights. And all my cousins are daredevils. They just do everything and anything. And I remember when we got up to the city walls, they'd all just race up those steps, something which I couldn't do. I just froze and stood at the bottom. And being a young child, I still recall my late uncle, my Uncle Michael, he noticed that I had vertigo, that I suffered from vertigo, that I had a fear of heights. And it just came up to me, gave me comforting words, put out his hand, and just grabbed my hand and took me up. And I was scared, but I felt secure. I belonged to him. I had a strong sense of belonging. He was my family, he was my uncle. I was safe. And the next time that happened, it wasn't my uncle. My young cousins held my hand, and they took me up, and they helped me up. Because that's what we do when you belong to a group of people. We help each other out, and we help each other past obstacles. Feeling like you belong to a group is magic. It's a very special thing. And even though I belonged to a very large family and felt like I really belonged to that large family, I also got, at a very early age, the sense that I belonged to a bigger group. My family, local for many generations, well-known, and Gibraltar, after all, is a close-knit community. We're a small community. And being a boy, out and about, I was always easily recognized as es el hijo de, el nieto de, el sobrino de. And that was a very nice feeling. More than often, I'd turn up at the shop to run errands for my late granny, Mama Angele, and I didn't even have to talk. Being a young boy, the lady behind the counter just stretched out, gave me a bag full of groceries. Es el niño de Angeliti. Tú llevas a tu abuela. People just recognize you. So it was very special. It was very nice. being recognized by a wider group of people outside the remit of my family. It gave me the sense that I belonged to a wider group of people, community, and I felt safe in it. It also armed me with confidence. And armed with that confidence, as I continued to grow, I ventured out into the community on my own. Still a young boy, 80s Gibraltar still. I remember one of the things that I did often was listen out for the lunchtime flights to arrive on Sundays. Once it landed, I'd just venture out into town on my own and walk up to Sacarelo's newsagents, waiting for the delivery of the Sunday papers, and what I was really looking forward to, the arrival of the comics, which was like my weekly treat. Between the plane landing and my walking up to Sacarelo's newsagents and seeing the late Tony working at his shop, waiting for his delivery, I used to have to hang outside the shop for a while, just making time for the delivery to arrive. And outside, there were other people. And as I did this weekly, I started to recognize faces that usually hang outside the shop on Sundays waiting for their papers to arrive. And one week, I remember, still being very young, I think it must have been 8 or 9, a group of men who usually congregated outside the shop like me, just waiting, just called me over and invited me into their group. And we just started a conversation, we just started talking. And I remember they were telling me stories about their childhood in Gibraltar, and I kept asking them about life in Gibraltar when they were young, and all these different questions, and all these different stories were shared. And that was probably the first time, or at least the first time that I recall, that I went out into the community on my own and made my own new connections and created my own circle. I started to belong to a new circle, which I had solely created just by being myself. And that became a Sunday ritual. And that ritual of making new connections and creating new circles of belonging just by being myself has continued ever since. As I grew up, I made friends, I went to school, I created circles at school, clubs, workplaces, and in creating these new circles of friends, new circles of belonging, I found security and comfort in them as well. And one of my favorite things right now, one of my favorite things throughout life, many of you will know, is walking down Main Street during primetime Janito, which is Saturday mornings, and just chatting to everyone. I've been very fortunate that I've had what I term a normal life. I've been able to engage with people without any problem and meet new people and create new circles to which I can belong. And most of us have, in fairness, just by being ourselves. But not everyone is as lucky as we are. Flash forward to my early 20s, and that was the time when I joined the Royal Gibraltar Police, a very significant moment in my life, because it also provided me with a great moment of realization. As a police officer, I was often deployed and dispatched to a number of incidents, to situations, to try and identify problems, to try and resolve problems, and where we couldn't, to try and remove the problem. And on attending a number of these incidents over the years, I realized that many of the problems often arose from people who felt disconnected, who felt disengaged, who felt like they didn't belong. When they felt like they didn't belong, people normally adopt an attitude of them against the world. It's often even against their families, them against their own circles of belonging. An infant baby is actually one of the most vulnerable mammals on the planet. It can't do anything on its own. It just lies on its back and it cries. And it cries because they need someone to do something for them. It cries to provoke a reaction. It cries to try and get someone to engage with them. It has a need to belong to someone, because in belonging to someone, it can get someone to do something for them, something which they can't do for themselves. They also need to belong in order to feel safe and secure, and this in turn will allow them to be what they are, a baby, a helpless baby. Belonging, it seems, is a basic human need. It's allowed us to be who we are, and in the safety of belonging, it also allows us to engage with others, something we also require, something that we need. And in engaging with others, we develop. And in developing, we also allow ourselves to go and embark on the journey of becoming. Most of us, like I say, we already belong to groups. We have families, we have friends, we have co-workers. Most of us engage with others just by being ourselves. Most of us learn from other people and from the experiences that we encounter on a daily basis. Most of us are on that journey, that never-ending journey of becoming. We live in an age as well when we're probably the most connected. We message people countless times a day. We have families, we belong, we have a strong sense of belonging. We also have a great setup here in Gibraltar. We're a small community, we're closely knit, and we've got countless events. ¿Verdad, Seamus? Tenemos un montón de events that foster engagement and also develop further that sense of community spirit. But how connected are we really? We might have hundreds of friends on Facebook. We might talk to countless people down Main Street every day. Like I say, we belong to a number of groups, family, at work, and everywhere everywhere we go. But how much do we really know about each other? How well do we know what's on the minds of those that are closest to us, those that are dearest to us, those whom we belong to, and those who belong to us? In Gibraltar, being small, we're naturally born into enlarged circles of belonging. It's sort of automated. But belonging really requires work, a lot of work, like everything and anything in life. People need to engage, to truly engage. We're all on journeys of becoming. We change daily. We experience new situations daily. We change daily. Our moods change even hourly in response to the circumstances around us, to the people around us. How much do we keep up to date with each other? Too often, it seems, we take the sense of belonging for granted just because it's almost automated. We belong, they belong, we know everything about them just because we belong to the same circle. But do we really? We live in a fast-paced world with increasing pressures. People get hit with new situations all the time. Sometimes they fear just being themselves within their own circle of belonging. Some choose to continue to belong, but choose to become silent within their own circles of belonging. And being silent in a circle of belonging means belonging needs work. It needs a lot of work. In silence and in disengaging within our own circles, problems arise, problems grow. In being alone, problems worsen. And in problems worsening, we become anchored and we halt our journey, the journey of becoming. We isolate, many of us tend to, and I mean, we've all done this, we all do this. We tend to isolate ourselves while still trying to maintain that image, keep up that appearance that we're still belonging, that we're still part of that group, even though we become disengaged with it. Others lash out. Some completely feel that they don't belong and they manifest it. And when you don't belong, it's you against the world. And that's when we have problems. And I think we've all been there. I've been there. In Gibraltar, we're very lucky. We've got numerous entities, agencies, volunteers, and very kind people who go out of their way to help people in these situations. But they really can't do it alone. We all need to do our bit. We all need to help. We all need to look after our own too. And it's very easy, much easier than we think. We all belong, automatically almost, but we need to work at it all the time. We need to keep a close eye on those around us. Sometimes, perhaps, one of the things we could do was not send that message and meet with the person. Look up when the person is talking and stop messaging and read the expressions on the person's face, or altogether ditch the phone. We need to meet up with people more often. We need to truly engage with them more often. We need to have more valid conversations with them more often. We genuinely need to share with our people more often. We need to share our problems, our stories, our anecdotes, our day-to-day, the little stories. Those are the ones that really matter as well. What's your day been like? We need to do it face-to-face, and we need to do it regularly. In order to be our true selves and to open up, we need to feel safe, secure, and comfortable. In order to feel safe, secure, and comfortable, we need to feel like we belong. And in order to truly belong, we need to truly reach out, truly listen, truly share. When we can be ourselves in our own circle of belonging, we are fully equipped to continue our voyage of becoming. And in truly becoming, we manage to extend our circles of belonging. And in extending our circles of belonging, we manage to create a truly wide, all-inclusive community. Don't leave it till tomorrow. Grab a coffee, grab a beer, and meet up with your people, those closest to you, and truly engage with them. Engage with those who belong to you and to whom you belong. Let's all truly and easily do our bit to build a better, bigger, more engaged community. One where we all belong to just by being ourselves, and then we can all continue on our journey of becoming. Thank you very much for listening.
Bye.